Hello and welcome back to Kitchen Sink with G. In this second mini-series, we're going to talk about optimizing each phase of your cycle, specifically relating to how you eat, move, and work. In this episode, we're covering how to eat or how to optimize your nutrition in each phase of your menstrual cycle. We'll go into the nutritional aim for that phase, the cooking styles, yes, that's the thing, that support and that are potentially not beneficial for the body in that specific phase, and the specific nutrients needed by the body in each phase, including specific vitamins and minerals, macronutrients, and I'll give you some ingredients that are high in these nutrients and minerals. Just gonna plug my website too, where there's a whole index of phase-specific recipes that support that phase that you're currently in. So, starting with the menstrual phase. The menstrual phase is the first phase in the cycle. It is the bleed, the period, menstruation. This is where your cycle begins. Day one of your period or your bleed is day one of your cycle. So starting with the nutritional aim for this phase. Firstly, we obviously want to fuel and support the shedding of the lining, the menstruation, the period, the blood. We want to replace lost iron. Iron is an essential component of hemoglobin, which is a protein found in red blood cells that carries oxygen throughout the body. Low iron causes low energy. We also want to clear estrogen. The start of the bleed of the period was caused when all of your hormones dropped. So we want to basically make sure that all those hormones have been cleared out so that when your hormones start to rise again, it's newly produced hormones, not any old ones that are lingering around, which are going to cause hormone imbalance. Interestingly, estrogen, if it's not cleared properly at the start of the cycle, it ends up reactivated later, which can actually lead to achy joints, sore boobs, and bad sleep in the last 2 weeks of your cycle in your luteal phase, which is definitely not when you want added PMS symptoms. But if you're getting any of those symptoms really bad, it might be because you're not clearing estrogen properly in the first stages of your cycle. And lastly, it's a good time to establish good nutritional habits and routines for your cycle ahead. So building good foundations now that will set you up for a healthy and balanced cycle. So cooking styles and types of foods. In this phase, you want warm, thick, dark, nourishing, balanced meals. So that looks like stews, soups, broths, whole grains, lots of protein, a balance of everything, and definitely not restrict a specific macronutrient either. You want everything warm to keep the body warm. Heat lost to warming up foods is wasted energy, and when your womb is shedding and your body is quite sensitive, it's best to keep everything warm. So everything keeps flowing as it should rather than freezing and stagnating because it's cold, if that makes sense. Warm by default also means that it's being cooked, it's easier to digest, easier to extract nutrients, which means it's less effort for the body, which whilst the body is going through its shedding process now, it needs the nutrients, not the extra work that you're going to put on it. This is why this video is important, because there's in the next phase when it's not necessarily doing as much or as sensitive, you know, eat your salads and your raw foods and your cold things and your cold drinks. The dark foods, dark, not only do they just look like they fit right in this phase, you know, your dark chocolate. Usually darker foods are richer in iron, so that kind of makes sense. And they're also, the darker the food, usually the richer it is in antioxidants. So think your blueberries, black grapes, all those kind of foods, and phytonutrients too. Antioxidants are going to help combat any oxidative stress and inflammation. So if you know you've got cramps and things, that's going to help. You want nutrient-dense foods, and you don't need to overeat, but also don't restrict. You want lots of protein because as well as your uterine lining that's shedding, you're also building a new one underneath, as well as rebuilding blood. And in general, your hormones are baseline right now, so you are not getting any energy boost from estrogen yet. So it's beneficial to make sure that you're nutritionally balanced to get energy from your food. So that would be your carbs and your starches. Make sure they're high in fiber so they don't spike your energy. And fiber can also help with the detox and removal of excess hormones, which we mentioned earlier. And incorporate lots of healthy fats too, because healthy fats support the rebuilding of hormones as they begin to rise towards the end of this phase. So specific minerals and nutrients. I mentioned already iron and that it's an essential component of red blood cells. Beyond that and its function in oxygen transport, it's essential for the operation of certain enzymes. These enzymes affect multiple biological processes, including the regulation and synthesis of hormones. So sources of iron. With iron, you've got your heme iron and your non-heme iron. Heme iron is the most easily absorbed, roughly 10 to 35% absorption. So heme iron are your animal proteins, so red meats basically, grass-fed, beef, ox, lamb. Non-heme is from plant sources, which is best paired with vitamin C for maximal absorption, though it's not as high as heme sources. You've got your soybeans, tahini or sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, white beans, lentils. Dried apricots are actually a great source of iron. Dark green leafy veg, obviously cocoa, cacao, and dark chocolate. Blackstrap molasses, also a great non-heme source. And all of those sources, pair them with some form of vitamin C, which will help the absorption of that iron inside it. Sulforaphanes, they are great as an antioxidant that supports detoxification, especially the clearance of excess estrogen, which we just spoke about how it can become harmful if it's not cleared correctly. If you're interested in the biological science, sulforaphanes activate detoxification enzymes such as glutathione S-transferases, which help conjugate harmful compounds, including excess estrogen, which makes them water soluble, and basically you can just pee them out. So sources of your sulforaphanes are cruciferous vegetables like broccoli. Broccoli sprouts are super high in sulforaphanes, random, but if you can get your hands on broccoli sprouts. Kale, collard greens, cabbages, those are all your cruciferous veg. B vitamins, specifically in this phase, you want your B1, which is thiamine, B2, riboflavin, B6, B9, which is folate, and B12s. Those are really going to help boost your energy if you're feeling a bit slow in this phase. My favorite sources of those are nutritional yeast or Marmite. Specifically, that's B12 and B6. Mostly B12, super high in B12. Cheeses, whey, whole grains, leafy greens, soy, and eggs, especially the yolk, super high in B vitamins. Magnesium has a great effect on calming down period cramps or any aches, and has also been shown to potentially help balance mood. So magnesium, again, you've got your dark chocolate, your pumpkin seeds, leafy greens, almonds. Omega-3s are also going to help with inflammation and cramps. So omegas, you've got your fatty fishes like salmon, sardines, mackerel, flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts. And then lastly, in the menstrual phase, you want to keep hydrated. So your herbal teas are great also to keep everything warm. Broths, soups, and then fruit and veggies that are high in water. So watermelon's a great one. So next up, we've got the follicular phase. Follicular phase is technically the first half of the cycle, but in these videos and on Kitchen Sink, I've given the menstrual phase its own phase and the follicular phase, which kind of comes after it. But the menstrual phase is within the follicular phase, if that makes sense. Ideally, in a perfect 28-day cycle, your follicular phase is 14 days long and finishes with ovulation on day 14. So it's technically the first half of the cycle. It is estrogen dominant, so this is the phase where estrogen starts to rise, which also means that your energy will start to rise. It's a proactive phase, so you're starting to feel like getting out there. So the nutritional aim in this phase is mostly to benefit from the anabolic properties of estrogen. Estrogen is rising. Estrogen is anabolic. Anabolic means that it builds tissue. It builds muscle, hair, skin, joints, all tissue growth basically. So we're going to look at foods that are going to support that. Another nutritional aim of the follicular phase is going to be to support the development of the follicles and maturation of the egg. If you want to know more about what actually happens in the follicular phase, I go into proper detail in the video, which I'll link here, or you'll find it in the Everything You Need to Know series, and it's the follicular phase video. Another nutritional aim is we want to support digestive health. We kind of want to do this all cycle round, but in this phase specifically, digestive health is going to ensure that your hormones are balanced and mostly promote nutrient absorption. If your gut's working great, you're absorbing all the nutrients that you're taking in, which means that you have energy and you have all the energy to go out and be doing all those things. Your brain's working great, your body's working great, you're waking up with energy, because it's all very well eating all these foods, but if your gut is in a mess. Gut health is also linked to immunity. You want to be in top shape basically for ovulation and in general in this phase to get the most out of this phase. So cooking styles and types of foods for the follicular phase. If the menstrual phase was kind of winter, this phase is like into spring. So when you're thinking about cooking style and types of foods, green, fresh, vibrant, lots of fruit and veggies, so fibrous, probiotic, prebiotic, and protein rich. So your lean proteins, non-starchy veggies, healthy fats, and high fiber carbohydrates like your oats and your sweet potatoes. When you're cooking, you can have a kind of mix of raw and cooked. Keep it clean in this phase, so poaching or steaming or blanching. Raw veggies are fine in this phase. I said in the last one, you want everything cooked and easy. This phase, raw veggies are actually going to give you a bit more fiber and a lot of nutrients that get destroyed in cooking. You can digest it easier now if you're looking after your gut as well. So you can incorporate lots of salads and big bowls of veggie goodness and lots of fruit. Specific nutrients and minerals, I will start with protein. Protein is the building block of all tissues basically. Your muscles, if you're active and exercising and getting out there, up your protein to support that tissue growth. Leading up to ovulation, interestingly, your hair gets a bit shinier, your face looks a bit more symmetrical, your skin is plumper. All of that is thanks to estrogen. So using nutrition to support that and let it do its thing, so your vitamin E also for skin, will aid estrogen to basically naturally do its thing. The reason you start to look all good in this phase is because ovulation primarily is when you are fertile, so you want to be looking your best to attract a mate to make a baby. Your probiotics and your prebiotics to support the digestive health and your gut microbiome. Probiotics is going to be your, in drink form, kombucha and kefir, or kvass if you like that. And then you've got your sauerkrauts, kimchi, milky kefir. Prebiotics are the food for the probiotics. And these are foods that are high in insoluble fiber, which you can find in things like flax seeds, oats, green bananas. Then onto some minerals, we've got zinc. Zinc aids the synthesis of hormones, especially those that control the menstrual cycle and ovulation. When your zinc levels are good, this supports the quality of your egg cells, your oocytes, which is vital for successful fertilization in the ovulatory phase and embryo development. So zinc is essentially vital for healthy eggs. Zinc also plays a role in immunity. Zinc you can find in very high sources, I'm sure you're aware of. Oysters are probably the best source of zinc. Beef has some zinc. Pumpkin seeds, lamb, pork, crab, cashews. Next for the follicular phase, nutrients. Calcium. Calcium, we always think of bones, which yes, it is great for strengthening your bones, which again in this anabolic phase. And we don't think of when we go to the gym that we think we're just training our muscles, but muscles pull on bones, right? Or they pull on tendons that pull on bones. So when you're exercising, you are putting strain on your bones too. So calcium is essential for bone strength, yes, but in terms of hormones, calcium is integral to the regulation of gonadotropin releasing hormone. This is something I actually learned about in university, but I'm bringing it back here. The secretion of gonadotropin releasing hormone stimulates the release of FSH and LH. FSH is follicular stimulating hormone. It stimulates the follicles to develop, at which point one dominant follicle is chosen. That one contains the egg that's going to grow and grow and grow. The follicle grows and grows and grows until it bursts and the egg is released. The follicle ruptures due to LH. So FSH and LH are vital hormones for follicle development and preparing the body for ovulation. So in a backwards way, calcium supports the regulation of this process. Vitamin D helps the absorption of calcium, so just bear that in mind. Selenium supports proper thyroid function, which is crucial for balanced hormonal environment. Conditions like hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism can disrupt the menstrual cycle and lead to anovulation and possibly impaired fertility. So selenium is especially vital in this phase. The best source of selenium that springs to mind right now is Brazil nuts, but it's also found in seafood and organ meats. B vitamins. Follicular phase requires lots of energy for the growth and maturation of the follicles, as well as to support your energy as estrogen is rising and you have all this energy. Specifically, B1, B2, B3, and B5 are essential in converting food to energy and supporting overall metabolic processes. Folate, which is B9, is important for DNA synthesis and cell division for the rapid growth of the follicles as they are growing rapidly in this phase. B12 and folate are also important for red blood cell production. Your best sources of B vitamins are beef liver, brown rice and oats and other whole grains, lentils, sunflower seeds, eggs, specifically the yolk of eggs, spinach, wild trout. And the last nutrient I'm going to mention in this phase is magnesium, which if you're training will help relieve any sore muscles. It will help you sleep if you're feeling super energized. It also drops before and around ovulation. Source of magnesium, again, are going to be your dark chocolate, pumpkin seeds, almonds, cashews. If like me, you're actually recognizing that I'm saying a lot of the same types of foods like spinach, oat, almonds, dark chocolate, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, all these foods are actually coming up quite a lot. So I'm naming them as they are specific for each phase, but in general, incorporating more of these foods are going to help your entire cycle. So if you don't even know where to start and all of this is way too confusing and you don't know even which phase you're in or which phase you're going to support or what to eat for each phase, this is what these videos are going to help you with. But if you are just making food decisions on a daily basis, incorporating these foods that I'm mentioning a lot is a good way to just generally support your cycle. So next, we're moving on to the ovulatory phase. Ovulation typically happens around day 14, but as I mentioned, it can depend on you and your cycle. It's essentially your fertility window. The ovulatory phase is a tiny little phase. It's a maximum 2 to 3 day window where the egg is released from the follicle that was developing in the follicular phase to potentially be fertilized. The nutritional aim in this phase is firstly and foremostly to support healthy ovulation. So basically to ensure that the body is energized, has all the nutrients that it needs, there's nothing holding it back. So you have the energy for the follicle to be pushed to its final big size, which can be 2 to 3 centimeters large, which is kind of big, for it then to rupture, which happens when LH peaks. So we want to also support that rise in LH to push the final maturation and cause the follicle to rupture and ovulation to occur. Estrogen drops kind of just before ovulation, so we also want to support the removal of estrogen. And generally in this phase, want to fuel the naturally high energy that you're going to feel in this phase so that you can go out there and do all those things that you feel like doing. Cooking styles and types of foods. We've had winter, we've had spring, ovulation is summer. So in this phase, think light, bright, fresh, raw, hydrating, and colourful, essentially. So light and bright and fresh, similar to the follicular phase. You don't want anything that's too heavy or oily or greasy or stodgy or anything that's gonna weigh you down and hold you back from your natural energy that you're feeling in this phase. So fuel your body with brightly coloured, try and fit as many colours as you can on your plate in your day. Fresh foods and ingredients, as a general rule of thumb, whole ingredients from all food groups, no food restriction. It is super important that you don't undernourish here. It can be easy because you're out there doing all your things and busy, or you might not even be hungry because when estrogen's really high, it can stifle your appetite. But undernourishing can affect your hormones and your hormone balance and essentially your potential ovulation. And caloric restriction can also impair your sleep, which could already be disrupted also by high estrogen and high energy. I mentioned hydrating. Fluid is so important, especially when your hormones are high, like this phase. You've got LH has peaked, estrogen has peaked, FSH is up there. Hydration is super important to make sure that everything keeps flowing. Cervical mucus, so down there, is in general a little bit wet and slipperier, which you can imagine why. It's perfect for sperm to swim in. Minerals and nutrients. Zinc, as I mentioned in the follicular phase, is going to support healthy ovulation, especially when combined with vitamin C. Zinc is also crucial for immunity and testosterone synthesis, which also has a little mini peak. Zinc also helps stabilize and balance out hormones as well. Sources of zinc. Again, you got your pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, egg, yolk, ginger, seafood, especially oysters, obviously oysters. Magnesium. Magnesium actually usually drops around ovulation. This could give you headaches. So if you are experiencing headaches around ovulation, consider supplementing with magnesium or upping foods that are high in magnesium. B vitamins, especially B9, folate, contributes to overall ovarian function and health, potentially improving even the quality of eggs, which I mentioned in the follicular phase 2, then also leading to the likelihood of successful fertilization. Interestingly, I didn't mention it before, but folate helps to lower the levels of homocysteine, which is an amino acid that in high amounts, if it gets too high in your body, can actually negatively impact fertility and reproductive health. So having enough folate can help lower your levels of homocysteine. B vitamins are also important for DNA synthesis and cell division, which if the egg is fertilized, it will need to be doing a lot of that. Vitamin D helps regulate ovulation by supporting proper egg development and cell growth. And vitamin D, not that kind of D, but also this is the phase, is also responsible for increasing intestinal absorption of calcium and magnesium and phosphate, and also has a lot of other biological functions. So salmon is a great source of vitamin D. Mushrooms are very high in vitamin D. Eggs, especially the yolks. Tuna, liver, again. Liver and organ meats I've mentioned a lot here. There's a weird stigma around not eating organ meats. I personally love a chicken liver pate, and it is actually crazy how rich these foods are in nutrients and minerals that it's actually worth reconsidering. And if there's a way that you can reshape any of these, like making a pate, it's definitely worth doing because they are literally so full of nutrients and minerals. And then calcium, which again we mentioned in the follicular phase, but supports ovulation by regulating this gonadotropin releasing hormone, which stimulates FSH and LH. LH rising is what causes the follicle to rupture, which is ovulation. So calcium is going to support the ovulation process, basically. Great sources of calcium, didn't give too many in the last one, but here we go. Parmesan, cheddar cheese, sardines, tin sardines with the bones in, which you don't really taste because they go all soft, but they're super high in calcium. Or little whitebait, fried whitebait, also great source of calcium. Almonds, tofu, collard greens. So finally, the final phase of the cycle is the luteal phase. Luteal phase is the second half, the last part of the cycle. Once you have ovulated, you are now in your luteal phase. Your luteal phase will carry you all the way up until your next period. This phase is progesterone dominant. This is where progesterone starts to rise. You have estrogen a little bit and it has a mini peak, but it is not as high as it was in the follicular phase, and progesterone is much higher. This phase is much more consistent in length, 14 days from ovulation until your next period. So the nutritional aims in the luteal phase are to keep your energy balanced, your mood stable, and basically fuel the thickening of the uterine lining. This is the phase where progesterone rising supports the thickening of the uterine wall, which, if the egg was fertilized in the ovulatory phase, is where it's going to go and implant and grow into a baby. So the purpose of this phase is to thicken the uterine wall. It's an energy intensive process. In fact, it's a 200 calories per day plus kind of intensive process. So we want to also ensure that that larger caloric need is met with high quality proteins are very important in this phase to keep the protein high, as well as low GI and complex carbohydrates and healthy fats in regular meals with some snacks in between. This is going to help keep your blood sugar stable. Insulin is not as active in this phase, so your blood sugar is likely to be having a lot more fun. So snacking and having regular, balanced, low GI stable meals is going to help your mood and your energy stay as stable as possible. And then the last nutritional aim here, we want to keep everything, again, similar to the menstrual phase, warm, kind to the body, easy to digest, foods that support and that don't aggravate or irritate or upset, cause gas, bloating, because you might already experience gastrointestinal discomfort, and adding something that causes more irritation in the gut is just going to make that a hell of a lot worse. So cooking styles and types of foods, this phase being the final phase before winter is autumn. So think your autumnal foods: roasted, slow cooked, baked, stewed, souped, warm, comforting, nourishing, nutrient dense, again, home cooked foods that are kind of homey and cozy and autumnal in this phase. We want the food to be easy to digest. Basically, the slower and essentially the longer it's been cooked, the more work the heat has done to the food, making the ingredient and nutrients more readily digestible and less work for the body to do. Since it's actually already doing a lot, like it's building a uterine lining, it needs energy to do that, not to be using more energy breaking down raw foods or tricky to digest foods. Nourishing, we want lots of healthy fat, not too many, but a good amount of healthy fats, which is also going to help stabilize your mood and keep that consistent because it gives a longer, slower burn of energy. It's also great for skin, and fats are the building blocks of hormones, which in this high hormone phase, fats are essential to support this as your hormones rise. stabilize. When you're choosing carbs, low GI carbs or slow release combined with protein or fats, and that's going to help stabilize the blood sugar and help that energy be released over a longer period of time. Specific minerals and nutrients. Proteins, you've got a bunch of amino acids that make up proteins. In this phase, progesterone increases the metabolism and oxidation of a lot of these amino acids without you doing anything, without you training, doing any activity. Leucine, lysine, tryptophan, a whole bunch of amino acids are being metabolized, I guess, to support the thickening and the growth of the uterine lining. And if it's not getting that from the diet, it's going to start extracting from the muscles. Progesterone is catabolic, means it breaks things down. So if you're getting enough protein in your diet, it's not going to start taking protein from other parts of the body, basically. So it's very important that in this phase you're getting enough protein, at minimal meeting your baseline requirements per day and some. And this is going to prevent muscle and tissue breakdown and also keep your energy up. Great sources of proteins are your poultry, chicken, turkey is a great source of leucine, beef, organ meats again, whitefish, tuna, prawns, eggs, whey, dairy milk, cheeses, nuts and seeds have lots of protein. And when you're thinking about snacking in this phase, try and incorporate a form of protein in every single snack and every single meal. B6 is a very important nutrient in this phase. It's essential for the development of the corpus luteum. We spoke about the corpus luteum in the luteal phase video, but once the follicle is ruptured and the egg is released, the ruptured follicle turns into this weird temporary organ called the corpus luteum. Corpus luteum produces progesterone. Progesterone aids the thickening of the uterine lining. So essentially, indirectly, B6 will help the thickening of the uterine lining, if you see what I just did there, by supporting healthy progesterone levels, which can also help you if you suffer from mood swings right before your period. Great sources of B6 are your red meat, chicken breast and turkey, wild salmon, sunflower seeds, sweet potato, bananas, avocado. Magnesium, in this phase, you might feel cramps down there, especially like 3 days before your period. You might be bloated, sore, achy muscles, mood swings, your sleep, recovery from exercise. Basically, magnesium will help all of that. Magnesium is found in your leafy greens, your pumpkin seeds, brown rice, dark chocolate, as we've said already, almonds. Vitamin C, in this phase, immunity to pathogens decreases. Your body is doing a lot, there's lots of hormones running around, they're very busy doing their own thing. Immunity is kind of pushed to the side. Other important nutrients and minerals in the luteal phase are going to be iron, calcium, iodine, especially for thyroid function. But yeah, in general, I hope that video helps give an outline of firstly the nutritional aim for each specific phase around your cycle, as well as the cooking styles which you might have not been aware of that actually do affect the body in each phase, and what is most easy for the body to digest and what is potentially not great for the body to digest. I basically only highlighted what is good for the body, and so to focus on those kind of foods. So if it's your green, vibrant foods in your follicular phase, or your warm, slow-cooked, nourishing foods in your luteal and your menstrual phase. And then the specific nutrients based on basically what is happening physiologically in the body, which you can find specifically what's happening in each phase in my last mini-series, which was everything you need to know about each phase. And I went into each phase specifically, what is happening in the body, what you might be feeling as a result, and touched on how to eat, how to move, and how to optimize your productivity. The next video in this mini-series is going to be all about how to move around your cycle. So different movement types that are best for each phase. Make sure you like this video, comment, I'd love to hear your comments. Make sure you're subscribed to Kitchen Sink with G and don't miss any of these highly informative videos. I'm also releasing a lot more on my Instagram, so make sure you check out and follow at Kitchen Sink with G on Instagram. My website has a ton of recipes as well as all of this information, which if you're a more visual person, that's all on georgie.co.uk. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.